Hi, welcome to Leap Taken. This is Mika, and here at Leap Taken, I talk about all things witchy, craft related, law of attraction, manifesting, esoteric, and everything else in between. And today I want to talk about wealth and witchcraft. I hear it's bunching up. Wealth and witchcraft. So I'm just going to jump right into it. So here's something that I find is discussed or asked by witches themselves or maybe even other people, but the question is, if I practice magic, shouldn't I be rich? So that's kind of the basis of where I'm going with this video. If I practice magic, shouldn't I be rich? So, or why am I not rich? if I'm a witch, what's those winning lottery ticket numbers? Why don't I have enough money? Why am I not rich? Why am I not wealthy? So let's just start off with what witchcraft is not. Witchcraft doesn't equate material possessions, okay? When you're thinking witchcraft and spells, rituals, think energy, frequencies, not literal cash. And also your definition of what rich is or enough may be limiting. So I want to get into this conversation. I'm just going to be blunt. Poor witches versus rich witches. So just because a witch seems to have more money because of her material possessions that she outwardly, that you can see, does not equate to her being a better witch. Like she's mastered witch level 101 and then some. She's an advanced witch because she has the secret. However, on the flip side, if you have an ongoing issue with money, of not having enough money to take care of your basic needs, pay your bills, etc., and you're practicing witch, it's possible you're having a blockage in the financial area of your life, and that could be a number of reasons. Self-sabotage, that's real. Mundane financial education, meaning you don't know how to balance a budget, so that's your problem. And the other thing is breaking a curse. Yes, a curse. I really go into that here. I honestly believe you have more control over your life than anybody else, including other witches or those people who practice spells and hex work. So they only have power if you give it to them in that regard. That's why there's such things as, protection and send it back, what is it called? Send it back to sender. I forgot the name of that spell. Basically, whatever energy they're putting on you, you sending it right back to them, tenfold. Those things exist, but it's possible that there is a curse. There's been some sort of a binding curse put on you. And I'm about to tap into something else I rarely go into, but it is possible that it's a generational curse. It's possible that this is something that's stricken your family, a curse of poverty. That is possible, but, let me go back to the self-sabotage. So you can self-sabotage by, honestly, the limiting views about money. If you have limiting views, if you are someone who hasn't defined what rich is, yet you're asking the universe to make it so. You're commanding the universe to make it so. You're requesting all these goddesses and gods that represent money and abundance, that they make it so. You petition them to help you, and you don't have a definition of what rich is. Is rich having designer handbags, designer shoes, material possessions? So let's say fashion, house, car, vacations. That's rich to you. Okay. So the problem with that, I'm going to tell you right now, is when you're doing any sort of spell work where that's the focus. And I'm not saying you're bad. I'm just going to tell you what the problem is. That's the focus. Most people say, I just want enough money to pay my bills and these other items, this luxury lifestyle of having luxury possessions. But you have in your head, oh, I will have enough money to pay my bills. So the universe is going to show up for you. And here's how. You still work in that job that you really don't want to work. You want those luxury items. You keep doing these spells and you might get a couple windfall here and there, like enough to buy maybe a luxury item. But you still have your job. You still keep working a job. Or, hey, you might even not have that job, but you keep getting the same type of job where it's putting you in the same predicament, making the same amount of money. Enough to pay your bills. Enough to pay your bills. So the universe, you're sending conflicting energy out. You want enough to pay your bills. So guess what? You make enough money just to pay your bills. Well, why didn't it listen to me about the luxury, the luxury lifestyle and having designer things and so forth and so on, the things I identify with as being rich? Because if two things can't exist, if you want enough to pay your bills, the universe is making sure that that's happening. If that's a way, then the other thing can't be true, the luxury piece. But the luxury piece can't ever be true because you only work enough to pay, you only have enough money to pay your bills. So occasionally you may come into some money. Now, it's going to be hard to spend it on luxury items, especially if you're somewhat reasonably thinking adult about finances, because you probably have bills, extra bills to pay, or you're still trying to just do a little more extra. You can't maybe go as big as luxury items. But the universe is still showing up for you. It's just not in the way that you thought it would, because you're sending conflicting information. I just want enough to pay my bills. We have got to diminish this thing where we need to be humbling and, not expect more. I don't see a problem with wanting to have the designer things, the material possessions. I actually don't have an issue with that. I think the issue is your perception. Just because you have material things doesn't mean you have extra money. There are a lot of people who purchase high-end products, considered high-end products, clothes, very expensive house. But you ever heard the term house poor? There are people who have crazy debt because of these items that they're purchasing. And the moment they get a little bit more money, they go purchase the next thing, because it's a cycle where you want to stay in fashion and, up to date, so to speak, with your designer labels and things like that. So you want the newest. You always want the newest. So you need more money or more credit for that. That's not the same as rich. So you're conflicted up here about that. So the energy that you're sending in good form, in good nature, you're doing great spell work most likely, but it's not going to work that way. So it's just something I think that needs to be kind of thought about when we talk. And this is amongst the witches, not those who are not practicing, who are asking why you're not rich. That's a different piece to this. But you need to kind of just be aware of what it is that you're putting out there. Now, for myself, the way I approach this, when I speak of abundance, I always say more than enough. So what's more than enough? Well, I have to define that now, don't I? More than enough than what I have. And then I actually take like mental videos in my head of what that looks like. It doesn't have to be words, but I give myself an image of what does that look like, having, more than enough. And I play that image in my head, that video of what that looks like. How does that look like lifestyle wise for myself? What does it feel like to have more than enough? And I just put myself in scenarios. That's how I play it out in my mind, by the way. And it doesn't involve only having, because remember I said it's also how I feel, because that also matters a lot. How do you feel? A sense of security. So what you really want is a sense of financial security. I actually use those terms, a sense of financial security. That's something I focused on, I want to say about 2 years ago, using that more than just abundance. Financial security is different than abundance, because abundance, you have enough, more than enough in this time until you use that up. And, whatever the next cycle is when you get more again. Where financial security is, I don't feel that sense of lack, or I don't have the reality of not having a gap, of not having enough to take care of bare necessities and to have extra. I use in my vision, I'll say fund money to myself, money to travel, money to travel to, and I'll insert place, because, I could travel across the street. That doesn't cost no money. So I get a little specific about that kind of stuff. And again, it's not always words, but it's pictures, videos, or, imagery in my head of what that means. So that was self-sabotage, just the limitations. The other thing is mundane financial education. Is it possible that you have access to more than you realize and you can have more than enough? You can have said abundance. Maybe it won't look like the people that you see on TV, but depending on what you're really asking for, maybe that's not what you really want. Sometimes we just need to educate ourselves about money, and also that could lead to opportunities for more money. Once you learn more about investing, okay, well then that translates to find ways for you to realize those manifestations that you want for these luxury items and all this stuff. But you need to do part A before you can get to part B. Educate yourself on money. Also, once you have access to the money, you want to start to be able to keep it so you can use it for other things, not just these one and done purchases. So maybe you want to educate yourself on that, and looking at your current spending habits. Maybe there's a path to the lifestyle that you think you would desire. Not think that you desire. There's a path to it, but first you have to educate yourself on what you have right now. Now about that cursing thing. So I do believe that the curse of poverty has been placed on a lot of families. I really do. And by who, that's a whole other thing, which I may get into down the road, by the way. But anyway, I do believe there's a curse of poverty. And you see it so much, and it's beyond just, it's pervasive, and I see it a lot in families. Dare I say black families for sure. I see this, and it does actually have a lot to do with the first two things, the self-sabotage and financial education. Those are actually a part of it, but to the scale that you see it, you can't, and the actions that people outwardly seem to be taking around their life and setting themselves up and laying down a foundation, you do have to believe at the way that they're moving, it has to be something else going on, something supernatural, something occult, a curse, because you're seeing this whether you are in Chicago versus whether you are in New York versus down south, or here on the West Coast. You're seeing in families the same activity that hamstrings them, and keeps them in being almost destitute or in poverty or damn near close to poverty. So you have to wonder, okay, so wait, collectively no one can move forward, and taking into consideration there's a system in place that isn't necessarily super helpful to people of color, but some of us do move forward. So why? You got to start asking these questions, and honestly, after a while, I've asked that question, and I think it's a multitude of reasons, but I do believe it's a curse. I do. I really do. So with that being said, to break that curse, acknowledge it. That's the first step with any problem. You want to acknowledge it, and then you want to do the work to dismantle it. Now, witchcraft wise, that's going to look like a lot of things. How do you break a binding spell? That would be your first hint. But yeah, after a while, if you look and you're seeing a pattern generation after generation, modern generation, obviously, we can only go so far back because, we were working for free. But even if you're not black, by the way, you can look at this. Seriously, look at this. And if you're seeing a pattern in your family, you do have to wonder, is there, some sort of correlation between, especially if you're a witch, between a curse being placed on your family. Now, I'm not trying to get into who did it and all that. We could, like I said, break that down in a whole other video, but you want to just dismantle that curse. You want to undo the curse. That would be your focus, along with the other things as well. Now, doing that, the things I'm talking about, just to be clear, doesn't mean, okay, and that's how I become rich. I did all that work. Why am I still not rich? Or why don't I still have more money? Or why don't I have a big house? Or why do I not have a house? Why do I not have a fancy car or a car? Well, my best answer for that, because there's not one answer for everybody. That's a thing where you probably need to be working with somebody. You probably need a mentor, coach, something like that. to guide you better. And when I mean coach, a life coach who happens to practice magic, or another witch, who is more adept at understanding that. I think you need help, basically. I think you need help. I don't think that maybe you can do it by yourself, because you might be missing some key pieces to put all this thing together so that your outlook is different. Therefore, your spell, what your intentions are going to be different, because your entire outlook will be different. That's the best way I can answer that question. I'm not saying that people who aren't doing well, who practice magic, well being relative, to take care of their basic necessities, that it's their fault. I just want to be clear, that's not what I'm saying. But if you are doing the magical work, I have questions on what else is going on. Are you doing the mundane work, the actionable steps? Are you trying to better yourself so that you are more attractive to employers? Or are you investing in a business? What are you doing to invest? Are you just talking about it? Are you just putting it on a vision board and you have no path? Have you investigated about loans? Are you seeing if you could do a side hustle to build the money if you can't get a loan to start? What are you doing? Because everything else will be blessed with magic, but what are you actually doing? So there's that part too. Witchcraft could be a tool to facilitate financial abundance. However, in most cases, it's only part of the overall solution to your money problems. Witchcraft is only part of the solution. You still have to do something to make it happen. Even if it's about the winning lotto tickets, you still actually have to go invest the money, the $1 or $2 or whatever, to play the lottery. You got to get up, go with the money, give the money to somebody. It's still an investment on your part. It's still something that you had to put some energy into it. It didn't just come to you, is my point. Manifesting anything into your life requires will, intention, will, and energy. So when witchcraft, which is basically manifesting. So if you want to manifest things, you're going to have to do something. Put your money where your mouth is. Put your energy where your mouth is. That's just how it works. If there's another plane that we can manifest on where it's just like that, then I look forward to visiting that plane at some point. But right now, this is the plane of existence that we're on. Now, and about that, I realize there are people on this platform and others who are going to say to you, oh, well, maybe it's hard for her, but it's not hard for me. I just think it and it happens. Let's look at again. I'm somebody I'm probably too analytical. I'm going to look at the whole picture. I'm going to look at who this person is from what I can see. And now I'm looking, where are you filming from? Now you make me look closer. And now I'm going to start doing my investigative work on who you are, what you're about, especially if I'm investing my energy into believing that, you got the right answer. You got the formula for me. I have yet to see anybody who usually the background, the whole picture doesn't match up with what they're saying. I'll just put it to you like that. It doesn't all match up. So something's off about what they're saying. Magic is wonderful because you can have a situation where you do think of something and you manifest it, meaning, you just used visions, a vision board, your imagination. You just thought about it, prayed about it, at your altar. And then this thing manifested. I have had that experience, so that's true. Now, when I say this thing sort of manifested, what's the thing? So sort of manifested. Your soulmate, the guy that you want to marry, if you're doing love spells, but you never go out. I talk about this. Women who do this, listen, you work right now. A lot of people are working from home. You're always in your house and you never go out. So the reality of it is, how much is this spell going to work to attract someone when you are never outside? Like almost never. For that to work in the way that you think it should work, the person would literally just have to pop up in your house. And like I said, currently on the plane that we're on right now, manifesting doesn't work that way. Money's the same way. Even if you win the lottery, you didn't have to work for it. You had to get up, go play the lottery. So you still had to do some sort of energy work to get yourself there. So this concept that you don't have to do anything and you only rely on witchcraft, and that's it. And when I say rely on witchcraft, meaning you did the spell, you did the symbolic gestures to make this thing happen, to send that into the ethers, into the universe. You still have to do some other steps. The magic's not done. That was one part. You know, there's still more work to do. Almost anything you're going to do a spell for it, some sort of magical working, when it comes to money, there has to be some other effort put behind it. The lotto, you got to go play it and you got to invest a couple dollars into it. Getting a promotion, you're going to have to do something to get that, to get noticed, to get that promotion. You're going to have to do something more. You have to be good at your job. So there's some energy at play that still has to take place, that still has to go down. You want to marry a man who makes money that support you and you don't have to work. Well, there's a host of things you have to do. You have to be someone who attracts that type of guy. I'm not saying you have to look a certain way, but you have to be someone who can attract that. So you're going to have to do something about that. Then you have to actually put yourself in the presence of the type of men who can afford to support whatever lifestyle that you'd like. So there's a couple of physical steps that are going to have to happen, right? The millionaire, or not even the millionaire, you know, the guy who could afford to take care of you, because we all have different expectations. That guy, he's not going to physically manifest in your living room. He's not. So there's that part. And as I said before, different plane of existence that we're manifesting might work that way. So far, it doesn't work on this plane that way. And I'm bringing all this up because I realize there's a lot of conflicting information out there about witchcraft and money spells and what that means. And the question of, well, why am I not rich? You know, I started it off of a practice magic. Shouldn't I be rich? Well, after everything I said, there's a couple things that could be keeping you from that. First and foremost, your definition of rich. That's everything right there. And then, of course, self-sabotaging yourself, not understanding money enough to hold on to it long enough to even put yourself in that type of position where you have so much extra to be rich. And then, of course, there's breaking a curse on your family, a curse of poverty. So there's that as well. So that's your why. And then there's actually a host of reasons, which I'm trying to allude to, depending on your unique situation, on why you don't have what you think you're asking for. So hopefully this was beneficial. I know a lot of us are feeling, some issues around finances due to COVID. You know, if you have certain businesses and, you have less than right now, or for whatever the reason is. And of course, some of us didn't have any of that experience, actually, because of COVID. They found ways to actually increase their finances. So, wherever you stand in that, I believe that some of the information I just went over and my thoughts on it are super helpful for you kind of understanding a little bit more of why your situation isn't changing, or why it did change, So thanks again for watching. I'm Nika. This is Leap Taken. Please like the video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe, share, and if you've already subscribed, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And thanks for watching. Bye-bye.